I'm Heather from EVIE booktubes, and today is my April reading wrap-up. In the month of April, I read 19 books and I DNF'd one, so I will be talking about 18 books. If you are keeping track, this is the second month in a row that I've only had one DNF, which is weird, but this is where we're at right now. So as always, going in chronological order. If they're available in Kindle Unlimited, it's marked in the description. That's true of all of my videos ever. And also, once again, not having a top 5 this month. I had 7 5-stars, 2 of which were manga rereads for me, so yeah, I'm not doing one. First is Blood Heir, which is Aurelia, Ryder #1 by Ilona Andrews. I gave this 4 stars. This is the spin-off to the Kate Daniels series that I did for the Ilona Andrews read-along that I do with Steph from Novelty Corner and Megan from Meowth Vader. We are adding Izzy from Happy for Now for our next series, which is Hidden Legacy. This one I still liked it, but it just didn't do what I wanted to do. It follows a character from Kate Daniels and it kind of makes them Kate Daniels 2.0, and that's not really what I wanted, but it was still all their humor and skill and the world building and all the things. So I did still enjoy it, just not as much as I would have loved to. Specifically, there's an 8-year time jump between the beginning of this book and the end of the Kate Daniels series, and I didn't want it. I didn't want it. I also didn't really like the conflict or the reasons behind the conflict. Now, this is the only book in the series right now, so I don't know where they're going to go, so they might fix all of it for me, but right now I wasn't pleased with the setup and the conflict. Then I read Spell of Desire. This was a reread. It's volume 1 by Tomu Ami. It's a manga. I gave it 4 stars. This is a witch who didn't know she was a witch. She's the daughter of the Witch Queen, and the Witch Queen gave her magic, and the Witch Queen's knight is there to defend her, and she can't keep control of her magic, and when he kisses her, it calms down. So there's a lot of him kissing her to calm down the magic. She's very insecure. She's also worried that this guy might love her mother, and she's kind of developing feelings for him. This was the first manga I'd ever read. I did enjoy it more knowing what I was doing and reading it on a bigger screen, but still the same rating. Then I reread Fire in His Fingertips, which is volume 1, 5 stars. Is the main character so insecure? Yes, but this is the one that is a firefighter and his childhood best friend. They've been friends their whole life, and she's trying to fix him up with other girls, and he's like, no, I'm obsessed with you. And she's very insecure and thinks that he's a playboy and that she's just a notch in his bedpost, when that's not reality. So this is very explicit, so be aware of that, and it's only available in a physical copy. I read some manga to participate in the 30 in 30 challenge run by Izzy at Happy for Now, Tamika at Tamika's Library, and Shay at Shay Geeks Out, and this was a birthday gift from Izzy at Happy for Now. Then I read Kink Camp Hunted, which is Kink Camp #1 by A. Anders. I gave this 5 stars. There are content warnings for cancer, death of a wife, death of a parent, car crash, stroke. And this kink is primal play, consensual non-consent, prey, and predator. So he's chasing her through the woods. And I did not realize, but it is anonymous. So she just, sees this request on the billboard at the kink camp, and she's like, oh, that's exactly what I need. So she does it. She's never participated in kink camp or anything like that before. And so while she doesn't know who he is and he's chasing her through the woods, there's staff around the perimeter. Like, it's all very safe. It's not just meeting a stranger. And I liked that aspect a lot, because other books that I've read where this was kind of thing, they didn't know each other, and it did seem very not safe. But this one was safe, and I really enjoyed it. It's a kink that works really well for me. I liked the setup. I liked the characters. I thought it was really good. Next, I read Priceless by Miranda Silver. I actually did read most of this in March. I gave it 4 stars, so this book stressed me out and just gave me a little bit of a reading slump, but it was so well written that I didn't want to quit. Like, I wanted to see the end of their story. The steam scenes in here are top tier. Like, whoo! There's a degradation, like a lot of degradation, and it shouldn't have worked for me, knowing myself, and yet it did. But there are also content warnings because all of the side characters are toxic. So incredibly toxic. Her family, his family, everything just full of awful friends and family. So that was obviously very stressful. There's also weight shaming, drug use to be perfect, to get it all done, especially in college, cheating, and just be aware this girl is not doing well. She has a perfect older sister that she will never live up to in the eyes of her parents, and yeah, it did stress me out, but I did also love it. Then I read Yona of the Dawn Volume 2. I gave this 5 stars. I did like this a lot more than the first volume. And this is a princess who runs away from the palace because of a coup, and her bodyguard / he's also like the chieftain of a tribe, the Water tribe, I think, and they're on the run from the new king. Next, I read Agnes Moor's Wild Night by Alyssa Cole. This is a very short novella. I give this 4 stars. It is based on a real-life historical event, and this is a black lady in waiting, kind of. She's a member of this king's court, and she's kind of viewed as an exotic. There's a tournament thrown in her honor. She has to give a kiss to the victor, and there's this one knight who seems bound and determined to win her. So I really enjoyed it. Very short. Then I read The Culmination of Everything, which is Sugar Valley #1 by Christina C. Jones. I gave this 5 stars. This is the one that I got in the Hello Lovely box. I did it in the vlog for my physical TBR. I really liked the small town romance between a trauma surgeon and a alpha grump, and there are quite a few content warnings, including the death of a child and spouse before the start of the book, so you're in the grief process. There's a school shooting, there is a fire that someone dies in, and also the hero as a firefighter is severely injured and has extensive burns, and there's some talk about some of the physical things that a trauma surgeon would see and work on that might be graphic if you really can't handle any medical thing like that. So this one, I feel like their relationship won't work for everybody, but it did really work for me because of where she is in life. She's not feeling anything. Him being a complete jerk and her being angry at him is like the first thing she's felt in a minute, and so that anger quickly turns to anger / lust, and so they are kind of sleeping together long before they actually like each other, and I really liked it a lot. Next, I read Never Seduce Scot, which is the Montgomerys and Armstrongs #1, and I don't have the author written down for some unknown reason, by Maya Banks. I got this from EVIE, and I gave this 4 stars. So this one is a little bit more emotional, a little bit more heartbreaking than I typically like to read. It really did kind of tug at my heartstrings. So we have a main character who is deaf and has been maintaining that she is actually mentally not all there since the accident that left her deaf, because she knows that the man that she's been promised to is a horrific abuser behind the scenes. He told her all the things he was going to do to her after she was married, and so because her family didn't really believe her about him when she was well, she was trying to run away, she got thrown off her horse and is deaf, and it was very disorienting, right? But once she kind of figured everything out, she still didn't let on that she was just deaf because she was afraid of being married to him. And they have sworn enemies, they're 2 clans, and the king has decided that he really needs them to work it out, so he forces her in marriage to the chieftain, and her family is terrified for her, and the chieftain is like, I'm not going to take out my anger against you for killing my father on a girl. Like, I'm not. But not everybody in his clan feels the same way, and some of the things that they do to her, and just it was so sad. They really didn't accept her, and she was really just a good, kind person and didn't deserve any of it. And does that get resolved? Yes. Was it still a lot of the book and hard to read because I just wanted to like defend her? Also, yes. So know that. So he is going to treat her really well the entire time, but not everybody with him is. And eventually he does figure out that she's just deaf, and she was afraid to tell him because what if him being kind to her was partially because she wasn't all there, and if she admits that she is all there, maybe that will turn to cruelty and anger. So she's still afraid of confessing, even though she no longer has to worry about marriage to this other man. So it was a lot. I really liked him because he really did treat her well, and even when he didn't think that he could ever love her or she could be a wife to him, he still treated her well and didn't punish her for other people, and I liked that. Then it was the Dark Romance Readathon, so I read Predator by Runyx. I gave this 3 stars. This is a mafia enemies to lovers. She's a genius, and she created codes and then they got stolen by her boyfriend, and so she's trying to get them back, and because of that she's going to the enemy, and there's some good old knife against the throat scenes here. It seems like he might have done it, he might have been framed, he's definitely lying, she doesn't know what's going on, and also he hates her and she doesn't know why. The answer why is pretty sad. Yeah, there's also content warnings for kidnappings of little girls and all of the usual mafia violence. I really didn't like the conflict. Then I read There Are No Saints, which is Sinner's Duet #1 by Sophie Lark. I gave this 5 stars. There's content warnings for child abuse, mutilation, kidnapping, torture, murder of women, cutting. So you have 2 serial killers, and the serial killers are both rival artists as well, and they are in competition together. And the serial killer who's going to be the love interest kind of notices this girl, and the other serial killer notices him noticing her. So the serial killer, who is not a love interest, takes her, kidnaps her, leaves her as a gift for the serial killer that is going to be a love interest. And he doesn't take the bait, so he leaves her there to die. And then he's thinking about it, and he goes and he sees her come out of her house, alive and well. And now his interest truly is piqued. He becomes obsessed with her and orchestrates all these things to get to know her, and she saw him in the woods, knows that he didn't help her, but she does not know if he's the one that took her. So you have that. It is not a love triangle. It is one relationship between these people, with the villain being the other serial killer who put all of these events kind of going. I loved it. If you want sociopath romance and are able to read about pretty graphic serial killers, then you might like it too. Then I read the second book, which is There Is No Devil. I also gave this 5 stars. It's been forever since I read a duet or a trilogy where the final book really finished strong for me, and I liked it just as much as the beginning of the story. I did love this one just as much. I was really happy about that. I really liked the final showdown, the atmosphere, everything that happened with that I liked. And this is definitely a series where you get the corruption of the main character going more and more into the villain's space rather than her getting the villain to be better. And I will give you a warning that there is a flashback to the child abuse, so some of that is on page. Then I read To Her Rescue, which is Night Brothers #1 by Dria Andersen. I did read this as an arc. I gave it 4 stars. This is Panther Shifters. It's also Black romance. Both of the main characters are Black, but her father is super controlling. Her family, toxic, horrible. Huge content warning for toxic family. She is inheriting millions of dollars. They're trying to control her to get those dollars, and also are literally willing to kill her if she doesn't give them the money. So because of that, she has an arranged marriage of convenience, to this alpha who is like, nobody's gonna treat you like that. They've been interested in each other before this. When his dad says, hey, I want you to marry her because her dad's forcing her into marriage, he's like, I'm only doing that if she's okay with it, but also nobody else is gonna do that. So they do get married. He does protect her. It's low angst, no third act breakup. He was super sweet to her. There were some arguments where I was like, you could have been a little bit nicer, but it was totally fine, and he's definitely not going to let her family continue treating her like this. Then I read Not My Type, which is all access #1 by EVIE Mitchell. I gave this 3 stars. This is a contemporary book with a main character who is a wheelchair user and a love interest who teaches shibari, which is the bondage, that is the knots that are crisscrossed and layered and artistic. And the steam didn't really work for me. The humor didn't necessarily work for me super well. I did like the characters, but I hated the conflict, the third act breakup. I thought it was really dumb. So you have good representation, but not everything worked for me. Then I read The Heir Apparent's Rejected Mate, which is 5 packs number 2 by K.C. Wells. I gave this 4 stars. I was really looking forward to this one. I did read it all on release day. I did really enjoy it, but there is definitely a very slow start to this story. Also, they are high school seniors, basically. And there's a surprise baby when he didn't use birth control after she really specifically asked him to. So there are also content warnings for harassment and sexual harassment by other of the teenagers. I really did like the final showdown. I thought that made sense. You also have where this pack, there's a hierarchy and there's kind of the shifters who are more in touch with their animals and live in the swamp, and there's the elite who are rich and trying to blend in with the humans, and the elite just view the scavenger ones as lazy and, you know, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And so there's a huge lack of understanding and communication between their two groups. He's the alpha, she's one of the ones in the swamp, and so she just thinks that he will never understand her, and he is like, why can't you understand? And I really liked how all of that played out and the communication that happened with that. As always, K.C. Wells really does put threads in there of how you should treat other people and just kind of the problems that we have in society. I didn't love... Okay, this is one of those where he doesn't treat her well. He rejects her, right? But because he has to, he never wasn't interested in her. He never wanted to hurt her. He felt like he had to, and I don't always love that. So I did really like it. You might not like it if you don't want teenagers and or pregnancy, but I did really like it. Then I have Black Love Matters, which is a nonfiction essay collection that is edited by Jessica Pride. I gave this 4 stars. It's not entirely about Black love. I'd say that a lot of the essays were more about the importance of representation in books, their personal experience, and when they saw themselves represented in a book, and the way that they show love, but not necessarily about Black love. Now, some of the essays very much were so. One that really stood out was Christina C. Jones, another one was Beverly Jenkins. So some of the essays very much do deliver on the premise, but the overall collection, not necessarily. Do I think it's worth reading? Yes. Did I enjoy my time? And were some, you know, more of a highlight than others? Yes. But if you're going into it expecting it all to be about Black Love Matters, it might not live up to that expectation. Then I read Fire in His Fingertips Volume 2. This was a reread for me, and in this one, they are officially dating. They say I love you. All of that is resolved, and I'm looking forward to the next one. Again, very explicit, only available in physical. Then I read The Never King, which is Vicious Lost Boys #1 by Nikki St. Crow. I gave this 4 stars. I read this specifically because May at This Past Romance, Izzy at Happy for Now, and Tamika at Tamika's Library convinced me to. I did really like it. So this is a Peter Pan retelling, which I could not care less about, but Peter Pan in this case is basically the king of Neverland, and he has lost his shadow, and the Darling Women were part of that. And so every generation he kidnaps the Darling Woman, and they come back mentally unstable, unwell, broken, and the main character, who is turning 18, has been told her whole life by her mother that Pan is coming for her, and she just views her mother as crazy. And so when Pan really does come, she's always been terrified of losing her mind, because that's happened to all of the women in her family at the age of 18. So she's taken to Neverland. She's enjoying her time there, but she is terrified of losing her mind, and she has a romance with Pan and the Lost Boys, who are not boys at all. They are men, and specifically with the 2 Fae princes who have been cast out from the Fae. And then there's another guy who is the shadow of another island, and we really don't know much about him, but he is capable of inciting terror in you. And yeah, it's pretty steamy, very interesting ending. I'm ready for the next book. It's out but the third and final book doesn't come out for a few months. So, but I believe that they have a live show this week. It might have already happened when you see this on Izzy's channel maybe. So I kind of want to read the second one before that. So Pan does take the bloody heart out of a person for touching her. There's a weird cleaning fish scene. I don't know why it was in there at all. So if you don't want to read, you know, cleaning fish, if it just grosses you out or whatever, that's in there. There are runes carved into skin, mental illness. She was kind of known as a whore, and I liked that even though she was 18, she was very experienced. It made sense for her to be using sex to try to get her way out of this situation. I felt like that made sense for the character, and I liked that they did that with the character. So yeah, I really liked it. That's it. Those are all the books that I read in April. If you read any of these, please let me know. If you're going to read any of these, let me know. That's it. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.